There is a right and a wrong way to interact with a dog, to pet a dog, to stroke a dog, to greet a dog. And I'm going to show you the right way how to do it. And I'm also going to show you a couple of games that kids and dogs can play together that are so easy. So whether you've just added a new dog into your household that knows nothing, or whether you have a dog already and you just really want to make the relationship better between your kid and dog, no training necessary. They're super simple, but they're brilliant relationship builders. So why don't we start with the how to greet exercise? So I've noticed over the years that kids have become really good. If they meet a dog out at the park, they will ask the owner whether they can say hi to that dog and pet that dog. But one of the things that's missing is if we track it back a little bit, ideally, the kid would say to their parent, is it okay if I say hi to that dog? And the parent would know whether that dog looks like a dog that they actually should be interacting with or not. The second thing they would do if their parent said yes was to ask the owner, hey, do you mind if I pet your dog? And if the owner says yes, do we go ahead? Not yet. There's still one more ask that we have to do. We have to ask the dog. Because we all know, as people, there are some times that some of us are more huggy than others. Some people don't like to be hugged at all, and that's totally fine. Or touched, totally fine. And also touched by a stranger, remember? And then secondly, there are some times when we want to be touched, and sometimes where we really don't want to be touched. So we might say yes at 10 o'clock and no at 10:30. It might just be that simple. We're just in the mood or we're not. And what I would love to do is really to be able to give dogs some choice in all of this. Because if they have some choice in it, then they're going to react better towards your kid. If they don't actually want to say hi and your child is being forced on them, that's when things can go wrong. Right? They might be like, no, actually I said no. Nobody was listening to me, but I'm not really interested. So this is a great way to be able to get choice. So it's a 3-step program that has a nice little ditty to help you remember it so you don't have to write it down. It is pat, pet, pause. Nice and easy. Pat, pet, pause. Kids can remember it too, and I've got a little poster of it if you want to follow up afterwards and remind yourself all the different stages. The very first step is, instead of rushing up to a dog, especially a dog you don't know in the park, but also even your own dog, starting this exercise at home with your own dog is really important, because kids are forming this muscle memory. And if they get used to rushing up to your own dog in the house and hugging and kissing and getting all up in their face, your dog might tolerate that. And when I say tolerate, it doesn't necessarily mean enjoy. They might put up with it. But if they went and did it to somebody else's dog out in the park, that dog might be like, I don't really know you and I don't like that behavior. And then you could run into trouble. So the goal really is to teach your kids how to interact with your dog in a way that would also be safe for dogs outside as well. Not to mention, obviously, we want your dog to love your child. And so doing things that they love is so much of a better way to create that kind of friendship between them than forcing your kid forcing themselves on your dog when they really don't want it. And hugging and kissing never really goes down well when it's forced. Dogs might want to come up to you and get a little smooch, but when somebody goes into their space and does it, it's not always ideal. So, pat, pet, pause. Number one, we're going to stop where we are and we're going to pat our leg to invite a dog into our space. Would you like to come over? And then the dog can either say, no, thank you, or they can say, yes, please. Now, if they say no, thank you, you have to be like, okay, cool. And parents really feel empowered to say that to your kid. They said, no, thank you. So let's let them be. And maybe you can ask them again a little bit later. Remember, by 10:30, they might be in the mood to get some loving, and they might not. Anyway, you pat your leg, you call them over to you. If they say yes, then that means that they're interested. So they come over to you. They would like to be pet. So let's try that. I'm going to do a demonstration with my dogs and see what their answer is. I'm going to ask them if they want to be pet. And if they do, then I'm going to go ahead and pet them. The second part of it is that pat is obviously the part that invites them over. And pet is petting with one hand on the body, not over the top of the head. okay? Because over the top of the head can seem very grabby, right? And so I like to teach children always to pet with one hand, because one hand allows the dog to be able to move away. Two hands, kids can't stop themselves from holding on to the dog somehow. And even if they're not holding on, it feels trapping sometimes to the dog, and they feel like they can't move even when they want to. And this might push them past their comfort level. So it's one hand on the body, usually the shoulder, on the chest, under the chin, but underneath rather than over the top. And the third part of it is pause. And that means you pet for a few seconds and then you stop. And what does the dog do? If at any point during the petting itself or when you pause, the dog decides to move away, then again, this is a great time to remind your children they've had enough, they're done, thank you so much, and then move on. Okay, so let's do a quick demo and see what happens when I do it with my dogs. I'm gonna let's put the camera down so you can actually see. Okay, so I'm gonna stand here. I have two dogs that you can't see right now. I'm gonna say, hi, you wanna come over? Nobody wants to come over. There's squirrels out in the garden and the other one's too old. See? So pat my leg. Oh, hi. Encourage him over. And then I'm going to see how he's presenting himself for petting. He's turning himself around. I'm going to pet him on the body with one hand, give him a little rub on the shoulder, nice and calm and gentle. That's really important for kids too, not to rough up the dog, but to just pet nice and calmly and then stop. I'm going to pause. See how he's looking up at me and inviting me to pet more. He's shimmying his body closer to me, saying he'd like me to pet him some more. So I'm going to pet him for a little bit more and then I'm going to stop. He's not moving away, he's not looking at me, but I still think he's interested in me petting him. I'm going to stand up in a second and then see if that makes him decide that he's done or not. Let's see if it gives him a different reaction. His little tail wagging, looking up at me. Do you think he wants more? Yeah, he wants more. Good boy. What a good job. That's great. So you've seen pat, pet, pause. All done. So pat, pet, pause. Really easy to remember and really fabulous for your dog at home. Teaching your children to look at your dog and see whether they really want to interact or not is absolutely crucial to their relationship, okay? So nice and easy to remember. All right, the second part of this is I would like to show you a game that you can play as a family, or your kids and dogs can play it together, and it's called Catch Me If You Can. And it's absolutely fabulous because, as I said, it's for dogs of any age, any size, any breed, any ability. It doesn't really matter how good their training is at all. All you're going to need is some little treats. And I've got freeze-dried liver. I love freeze-dried liver actually, because actually this is freeze-dried turkey, I'm lying. Because you can take that one piece and then you can break it up into lots of different pieces. So you can play lots of different games with this. With just one piece, I've made, how many pieces have I made? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 little pieces there. And also in the bottom of my treat bag somewhere, I've got some of my dog's kibble that I give for their dinner as well. And so, oh, it's right at the bottom of my bag. So little pieces of kibble like this that I'm using as well. So all you need to do really simply is to place a treat on the floor and your dog eats it and then you run away. And then when they arrive, you place another treat on the floor. Okay? Super, super simple. But in its simplicity, it's also teaching loads of different things without us even realizing. So it teaches your dog not to jump on your child if the timing is right. If they can put the treat down before the dog actually arrives, what happens is your dog runs in and they're looking for the treat and they're not looking to jump on your child. As soon as they go to eat the treat, your child's already taken off. So there's no time to jump on them, and then they just repeat the process. The other part of this, which makes it so magic, is that your kid becomes relevant to your dog. And this is something that I've noticed in all these years of working with kids and dogs. Kids love their dogs, but they're not always relevant. If they called their dog, unless they do some training with them and they actively get involved in playing with them, feeding them, or doing something that the dog deems really important, When your child says the dog's name, they might just not look or pay attention. Imagine somebody left the front door open and they went to run out and your child said, come, or boomer, whatever. The dog might just be like, no, I'm not really interested. I'm going to chase the squirrel or do whatever. But I think it's fantastic if we can teach our kids how to play with dogs in ways that they actually become really important to the dog. They're like, where are they going? What are they doing? Let me see that. So this game is a really great way to lay that foundation and create some interest in your child. So who's going to play this with me? Zig Zig, do you want to do this? I would play with Canby. I'm just probably going to give her treats. My 14-year-old, she can't run as well. So let me put my camera down so you can actually see what I'm doing. All right, so I take my treat and I put it on the ground and I take off running. And I put my treat on the ground and I take off running back. And I put my treat on the ground, let's give you a freebie, and I run. Get that out of the way, yeah, good job. Get me, and I'm not actually saying anything. Treat on the ground. Notice that my hand is coming out before he reaches me. Run back. Good job. Everybody gets a treat, okay? My run is so weird. So that is Catch Me If You Can. It's really, really easy.